Yo, what's going on, guys? And my employer, Hoops Hype, has dropped, aka Michael Scotto. Go check it out on hoopshype.com. Should be on the front page. Also, go ahead and read my Terrence Davis interview. I'm actually going to interview Marcin Gortat later. By the time you're probably watching this, I've interviewed Marcin. But either way, today we're doing NBA trade deadline intel that we're hearing. Lakers, Nets, Knicks, Nets, Mavs, Hawks, Pacers, Blazers, Pistons, Wizards, Pelicans. If you haven't been watching our series that we've been doing, we go through all these. Timestamps are in the description down below. And then if you want to watch the individual videos, they will also be clipped and then added with other information in my YouTube channel. Hit that like, subscribe button, and let's get right into it. So the first one we're hearing is the Jonte Murray, of course. This is the one that we're just going to get out the way. So Atlanta is at least looking for 2 first-round picks. We're hearing from the Ringer. The Hawks are not looking to take back any salary because they're cheap bastards. League sources told Hoops Hype, not the cheap bastards part, but that they're not wanting to take salary. You all know how cheap Hunter Wrestler is. With the Lakers having been arguably the most interested or linked team to Murray due to his representation with Clutch Sports, any framework for Murray would likely involve D'Angelo Russell and probably Gabe Vincent, as that would be contingent with Russell being flipped to a third team like the Brooklyn Nets, as Atlanta is in the process of looking for a buyer. Russell's $18.69 million contract with a player option in next year, and his playing style is not viewed as a good fit for the Hawks. As reported, Los Angeles would have to use their 2029 first round pick, ESPN has said, and the Lakers could get Atlanta's asking price of 2 first round picks by probably giving up Jalen Hood-Schifino, but it's worth noting that Atlanta chose Kobe Buffkin over him in the draft. The Hawks do covet Austin Reeves, so he could be the guy to get that trade value down. Now, in another big market, Murray is drawing trade interest from New York, as the Knicks aren't in a rush to push their chips in the table for him, as OG Anunoby has been really good for them. The Nets begin as a suggested fit for Murray by ESPN's Bobby Marks. The Hoops Hype podcast was the one that touched on that. Brooklyn has since reported interest in him involving a Spencer Dinwiddie deal. Brooklyn is shying away from Atlanta's asking price of at least 2 first-round picks. Hoops Hype has learned. Now, the Sixers have been linked to Murray, but Daryl Morey probably won't give up that many picks for someone who might be a questionable fit next to Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. Now, rival executives expect Murray to continue to gauge the trade market. The Pistons were linked to him, but it's not a realistic fit with Ivy and Cunningham there. Despite that, the Heat, who are interested in him, won't make an aggressive push, nor will the Spurs, because they don't have the assets the Hawks covet, and the Warriors just don't really see a way of getting that to happen. So let me hear your guys' thoughts. Where do you think he lands? It's kind of getting harder with every day that passes. This might be one that gets pushed to the offseason. So the New York Knicks are up, and the Knicks over here, from what we're seeing, is they're dangling a package of Quentin Grimes and Evan Fournier, which I believe is like $21 million you're getting right there. And that's enough to get you someone like Jonte Murray, but the Knicks don't want to push their trade chips in for Murray. And given the recent success of OG Anunoby, they're in no rush to make a deal. Hoops Hype has learned. Several rival executives say that they've already unofficially penciled in Anunoby to re-sign with the Knicks this offseason. New York is considering waiting to the offseason when another star could potentially become available, depending on the asking price, fluctuating for Jonte Murray and other players over the next few weeks before the deadline. The Knicks are doing their due diligence, looking at various players around the league, including Hornets guard Terry Rozier, Blazers guard Malcolm Brogdon, and former Tom Thibodeau favorite Al Burks. In addition, the Knicks are surveying the backup power forward trade market. So you could see maybe, I don't think they do a deal with the Pacers, maybe like a Jalen Smith, but another one, maybe somebody from Utah like Kelly Olynyk. That might be a little too rich for them. I think there could be some people that they could go out and have some interest in. I want to hear your guys' thoughts if you're a Knicks fan. I'm sorry that this, I don't know why this one shifted, but yeah, I want to hear you guys' thoughts on the Knicks. All right, so what we are specifically hearing right now with the Indiana Pacers is they are still scouring the market for potential moves if needed to be made. Now, what we're hearing is following the acquisition of Pascal Siakam, Rival executives, applaud them for being able to keep Benedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Andrew Nembhard, Ben Shepherd, and Buddy Hield. The result has created a logjam with Jalen Smith, Toppin, and Walker all competing for the minutes behind Siakam. Given this new front court conundrum that's been created, Hield could be the guy that's eventually moved to give Mathurin, Nembhard, and Shepherd minutes, while I think Jalen Smith is probably going to be the guy that they just brought in Obi Toppin, and I think they like Obi. And Walker, obviously, this future. I think Jalen Smith is on the multi-year contract, and we talked about him. He could be a guy that the Knicks go after, and he's on a cheap enough deal that a lot of people would like to have a rebounding big along the lines of a Jalen Smith. I think there is interest for that around the league. The Dallas Mavericks, I think they're definitely an interesting team, as I think they do need to. So Grant Williams is cool and all, but Mr. Derrick Jones kind of took his offensive production and is like giving them what they need. And I talked about this in a deal that you could go out. I forgot who we talked about on the NBA show this morning. A few guys that we thought were good fits for the Dallas. I mean, obviously a Kyle Kuzma would be great, but I think he might be too expensive for them to go out and get. But obviously last year they wanted Bojan Bogdanovic, Pascal Siakam. Supposedly Kyle Kuzma, Jeremy Grant are guys they're keeping. Now the idea of Grant Williams, Jaden Hardy, and Josh Green in a draft compensation is the best deal that they can get. They are supposedly getting calls for Derek Lively, but Dallas is told that he's untouchable. And Dallas hasn't been a healthy team, and we'll use the next few weeks to address that and see which players could be moved or not. But I think definitely when you look at this situation, it's a team that they want a forward. I think, another guy that they could get really cheap. He's been playing better now, but John Collins, Rashawn Holmes with Maxi Kleber, Rashawn Holmes with that's where it gets home. That's where it gets hard, because I think Tim Hardaway's playing too good to move him. So that's my thought definitely there, that where it becomes a bit harder. But I want to hear your guys' thoughts there. That's what we're hearing from Dallas. All right, the Washington Wizards, everybody's fan favorite story. Kyle Kuzma, we're hearing 3 first-round picks. Tyus Jones was somebody that I think we always planned on moving, but that's coming to a reality right now. And the Washington Wizards, obviously an intriguing team heading into the deadline. While Kyle Kuzma is drawing in exploratory trade interest from rival organizations, I think the biggest interest for them is understanding that a lot of people are looking at Kyle Kuzma as the consolidation prize if you weren't able to land Pascal Siakam, as he's somebody that is well liked within the Wizards organization due to his championship pedigree and being a good culture guy. My roommate walked in and I got 4 hours of bedtime right now, it's looking like. But what we were specifically talking about, Washington Wizards, Kyle Kuzma, teams that didn't get Pascal Siakam or didn't want to pay that much are probably looking at Kyle Kuzma. Again, Houston Rockets, Sacramento Kings are guys that they're. I mean, the Houston Rockets, send me Jalen. Actually, I don't want Jalen Green. I had to stop myself there. I don't know who I'd want from the Houston Rockets. But from the Sacramento Kings, I mean, Kevin Huerter, Davion Mitchell isn't the worst thing in the world. I don't really want to trade Kyle Kuzma, but I can understand that, Washington wants 2 to 3 first-round picks. And given that Kyle Kuzma has a descending contract, there's no immediate urgency for them to want to part ways with him. So really, Kyle Kuzma isn't going anywhere unless somebody gives him a Godfather offer. Now, Tyus Jones is the best backup point guard in the league. He wants to be a starter. He's a guy who has one of the top assist to turnover ratios in the NBA over the past few seasons. He's 27 years old. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent and is a player that the Wizards would like to re-sign, according to Hoops Hype. And as a full-time starter this season for the first time in his career, a role that Tyus Jones has expressed that he ideally would like to retain during free agency courtships, according to league sources. Tyus Jones is averaging career highs across the board: 13 points, 52% from the field, 42% from 3, 5.6 assists, and a steal and a half from. That's it. I don't know what I was going right there. But the belief is Washington wants at least a first-round pick for him. And should the team dangle a future first-round pick for a guy like him, a deal like that could be something that the Wizards expect to offer. Washington has a boatload of trade exceptions and will look to use those to take on salary dumps from other teams that for future draft picks and young players to bolster their rebuilding efforts. Washington has several trade player exceptions, 12.35 from the Kristaps Porzingis deal, 9.8 from Monte Morris, 5.38 from the Bradley Beal deal, and 3.5 from the Mike Muscala deal. So those are all ones to keep an eye out for. Now, we're specific hearing that the Trailblazers don't want to trade Mr. Jeremy Grant. And, I mean, it makes sense. With Pascal Siakam off the trade market, Kyle Kuzma and Jeremy Grant are basically the next two gems behind Jonte Murray, as people are coveting. Now, there's initial belief from various executives around the league that Grant would be a strong trade candidate following the extension he signed, even though he's been a little overpaid. Now, the Blazers have signaled that they won't part way with Grant easily, as he's viewed as a very good locker room leader and a complement to the team core young guys on the roster, and has maintained his two-way versatility and efficient three-point shooting at a career-high clip of 41.2%. The question some executives are asking is whether Grant could be the missing piece to a championship contender the way Aaron Gordon fits seamlessly for the Nuggets as a combo forward and eventually help them win a title. As a result, the rival executives say Portland is viewing Grant as a positive trade asset, whereas some were hoping that the Blazers would sell high on Grant early in his 5-year contract as more of a neutral asset. Thus, executives believe that Malcolm Brogdon is more likely to be dealt than Jeremy Grant if Portland makes a trade at the deadline, since he's considered less expensive to acquire than Jeremy Grant. Rival executives have spoken with Hoops Hype, believe a fair asking price for Brogdon is a first-round pick and salary filler. When asked by Hoops Hype what Brogdon has meant to Portland this season, Blazer coach Chauncey Billups replied, "He's like our voice and one of our leaders. When he talks, you listen. He's in a tough spot here. He's coming off the bench, and sometimes he doesn't have the ball in his hands. He's a point guard, but he understands where we're at and what we're doing. When he plays, he's always a plus player. I love having him here. He's an extension of me out there and in the locker room. He's a leader. His presence is felt every day," end quote, Billups said. Billups explained that Brogdon admitted when chatting with Hoops Hype the 31-year-old guard's role has been an adjustment and a challenge, that most mentally tough guys in the league go through challenges and adjust with different teams in different roles while persevering. Regardless, Brogdon explained to Hoops Hype that his goal is to persevere no matter what role he's put into. And it's not just a new role Brogdon is facing, it's a sharp decrease in a team expectation, going from an NBA final contender with the Celtics to a rebuilding team. So Brogdon has closed the game for the Portland when healthy, but eventually Portland is trying to hand the keys over to number 3 pick Scoot Henderson in full time and continue giving guards Anthony Simon and Shaedon Sharpe more and more minutes. So that's definitely something to consider. I don't want to say this is dark, but it is kind of dark. So the Pelicans might get broken up. It's not like they want it, okay? But the luxury tax with the new second apron coming into effect this offseason, is like we're going to see the first real wave of it. That's going to be something that could be a concern to break up the team, and we all know how cheap they are. The New Orleans Pelicans traded Kyle Lewis and a second-round pick for nothing in return, essentially offloading his salary, allowing the Pelicans to duck under the luxury tax and save $18 million in the process, ESPN's Bobby Marks noted. Now, I understand when you're not a contending team, there's no point to pay the luxury tax. But the following move raises a question around the league. Will the Pelicans start to move players this summer to help them avoid the tax again? Starting center Jonas Valanciunas is someone who could become an unrestricted free agent this summer and is considered the top center behind Nick Claxton. Valanciunas has been mentioned in multiple trades this past year. Are the Pelicans really going to pay him at 32 in May? Rising young forward Trey Murphy III is also eligible for a rookie scale extension during the summer and a significant pay raise. How much will he command, and can the Pelicans afford that bill? Herb Jones just got paid, and he has all defensive potential, and he's admired by a lot. Will they want to keep that? CJ McCollum, the team's de facto point guard, has remained a steady veteran presence and continued to be efficient. He's turned 33. Can they sell high on him now and move on? Will the Pelicans trade one of their stars, Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson, as they've both been in trade speculation but continue to be said no? Could they acquire another star in return, or possibly a high draft pick that could be a franchise caliber game changer? Would the Pelicans grow frustrated with Zion Williamson's injury history and weight fluctuation to move on from him? These are all things like rival executives are eagerly awaiting the answers to these questions and will be ready to pounce on the next available Pelican when the time strikes. So that's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. What do you guys expect from the New Orleans Pelicans? Why? But that's basically going to be it for me, guys. Hope you guys did enjoy. Peace out.